Clinton and Carl Higbie, former Navy SEAL spokesperson for the pro-Trump super PAC, Great America PAC. So, Carl, let me start with you.
First off, the PAC dissolved the day after the election. So,
well, right. I mean, now he's elected, but that
right.
You know, you were a Trump supporter.
So I'm here as Carl Higbie, Trump supporter.
All right. So let's talk first about this. Trump's saying he never advocated for a system or a registry that tracks individuals based on religion.
Right.
Here's Trump, though, from last November when he was talking specifically about a Muslim database. Here he is.
But that's something your White House would like to implement.
Oh, I would certainly implement that. Absolutely.
How do you actually get them registered into a database?
It would be just good management. What you have to do is good management procedures. And we can do that. It's nice.
I mean, do you go to mosques and sign these people up into the system?
Different places.
He certainly suggested a Muslim database.
Right. And you know what? He clarified his comments down the line, and look, everybody stepped in it when they've run for policy. But the fact of the matter is, what the mainstream media is missing here is that Donald Trump is looking for the most appropriate and most effective way to keep Americans safe. And I don't think that's being illustrated by or echoed by any of the other mainstream media that's pushing on him to say, oh, you're this, you're that. He's trying to keep America safe. That's you, that's me, that's, you know, kids everywhere.
Well, I mean, it's not necessarily effective. That's the problem. Not only does this run counter to our values, but there's really not much evidence that such a Muslim registry or a specific Muslim-like country registry would actually effectively prevent terrorism in this country. Remember, President Obama disbanded this program. We haven't had any major 9/11-style terrorist attacks since President Obama has been in office. And I think that we have to really consider what this does is it becomes a recruiting tool for ISIS. It's almost like encouraging racial profiling of Muslim people, which it in effect is doing, and that actually helps to encourage terrorists who want to attack us to look at us as an enemy of the Muslim world.
So how would you propose some sort of tracking for people coming to this country who are coming from countries or areas of questionable, you know, obviously conflict? How would you propose doing that? Because if we don't have some sort of tracking system for the people coming in, look, he's not advocating to talk about people here in America under constitutional protection. He's talking about people coming into our country.
By the way, those are the people who, when you look at Orlando, are the people who actually carried out some of these recent attacks. So if you just look at it on a raw basis, that wouldn't have, some people coming in as would-be immigrants, they wouldn't have ever hit that flag.
We have people who are American citizens who are homegrown terrorists who are committing acts of terrorism, and yet we don't necessarily isolate people and identify them based on their religion. There's no way to guarantee that a person's ethnicity or nationality or religion indicates their likelihood to participate in terrorist activity. And I think to do so, to go along those lines of profiling, whether it's by race or religion, is a damaging step for America to take. And it damages our credibility around the world.
Would you include 80-year-old Christian women into the potential terrorist ring? Because, I mean, we have to be somewhat intelligent about this to narrow it down. But the fact is, look, there's 1.6 billion Muslims. Most of them are perfectly nice people that just want to live in the American life.
When they say Muslim-majority countries aren't on their list, I presume he's talking about Indonesia, which has had its own issues, but that would give them cover to say, oh, it's not just Muslim-majority countries, right, if you take them out. But, Carl, you know, one of the things that's an issue here is whether it's a slippery slope. You start with a list, and then a list can be used for other things. And to Fox and the New York Times, you said the Japanese internment camps in the U.S. during World War II could provide precedent for keeping registries.
Did you actually see the tape, though?
Well, you said you didn't support internment camps, but that their existence could provide precedent for some sort of a registry of people.
I'm curious. Did you see the tape, though?
Yes, I did.
Okay,
we all saw it.
And I read your quote in the New York Times.
At no point did I ever even mention it. It was actually Megyn Kelly, which I was actually talking about the immigration reform under Carter when he did the Iran thing, and then also under World War II with Japan, many other countries too. I wasn't even talking about camps. Megyn brought it up, and I was shocked.
She brought it up, but then you did say, further to the New York Times, that it would be a precedent for a registry.
Exactly.
So here's the thing. I don't actually advocate for any of this. I didn't bring it up. I was shocked when Megyn brought it up. I clarified to the New York Times today. I said, look, you know what? This is something that is a huge black mark on our society, and we would never want to do it again. But you have to say that 6-3 Supreme Court decision upholding it was never overturned. Should we overturn it? We should take a look at it.
Well, I mean, that's...
But what are you saying then? You're saying you don't support it, but we should look at... I mean, what are you saying
here? Backtracking, Aaron. I mean, basically, apparently there's a lot of criticism you got from Megyn Kelly's appearance last night, and now you don't want to be seen as that person who's saying those things. But the reality is, it's out there. And that decision that you talked about, that Korematsu decision in 1944, even Justice Antonin Scalia said it's one of the worst decisions ever made by the United States Supreme Court, along the lines of the Dred Scott decision about slavery. slavery in the 19th century. We don't want to go back to that precedent. Just because there's an example in history, just because there's an example in history means that we have to go that direction. This is an example of black people being enslaved. We don't have to go back to that
can I just,
either.
before we go here, Donald Trump was asked about internment camps and asked to disavow them. To Time magazine, he said, I would have had to be there at the time to tell you, to give you a proper answer. I certainly hate the concept of it, but I would have had to be there at the time to give you a proper answer. Okay, that's not a direct disavowal. And then asked about this issue of internment camps multiple times this summer. Here's how it played out.
What I'm doing is no different than what FDR's solution for Germans, Italians, Japanese, many years ago.
So you're for internment camps? So you're praising FDR there. I take it you're praising the setting up of internment camps for Japanese during World War II?
No, I'm not. If you look at Franklin Roosevelt, a respected president, what he was doing with Germans, Italians, and Japanese, because he had to do it. Because, look, we are at war with radical Islam.
You certainly aren't proposing internment camps. I mean,
no, I'm not at all.
What is he proposing? He keeps bringing up FDR and what he did with Japanese, Germans. What is he saying? Is this not a slippery slope right in that direction?
Well, every time someone said internment camps, he said absolutely no. He said no, no, no. But he needs to take a look at it. We banned immigration from certain places. We scrutinized it. We registered people coming in from certain places. It is all in the best interest to protect America. And that's what people like, the media that went in frenzy today over that doesn't understand. Do you want to be safe or not? Like, he's not trying to hurt anybody. He's just trying to keep America safe.
And Keith, Barack Obama does a lot of this, though. Let's just be clear, right? Until 2011, he was doing this list. That was through his first term. Even now, there's special vetting for people who come from, let's be frank, Muslim countries.
There is special vetting, and we should continue to have some sort of heightened vetting for people who are coming to the country. But the reality is that the president has determined, the national security apparatus has determined that this is not an effective strategy in terms of fighting terrorism. And when Donald Trump talks about any type of registry, regardless of whether it's religious specific, he has a history of saying offensive words about Muslims. So it's going to be interpreted either in the United States or throughout the Muslim world as an attack on the Muslim community. And that's not good for America. That will encourage terrorism. And that's not a healthy solution.
Well, having known Donald Trump, he's not anti-Muslim. He's anti...
Tell that to the Muslim people in the world.
All right, Muslim people in the world, Donald Trump is not in fear of the Muslim community. He's in fear of the radical faction of the Muslim community that has done harm to Americans and abroad.
All right, we'll leave it there. Well, thank you both very much. Next is the Trump transition team split into warring camps. My next guest was just there with Donald Trump. You see him there, Governor Rick Scott of Florida. He's out front now.